Dangerously Incompetent here with the weak spot guide for the T26E4 SuperPershing, USA's Tier 8 Premium Medium Tank. Now it's not called the SuperPershing because it wears its underpants on the outside, but it's called the SuperPershing because, well actually, I'll tell you in a bit. Now the first thing you might think of when you come across this tank is what's it doing at Tier 8? It's really slow. It doesn't turn very fast. The gun's not that great. What's it doing at Tier 8? Well, actually, no. The first thing you think of when you first come across this tank is, I've just shot it in the front lower hull. Why haven't I penetrated? Oh, he's shooting me. That can't be right. I'll shoot him again there. In the front lower hull. That always works. It works certainly on those German tanks. Why haven't I penetrated? I haven't penetrated again. Why haven't I penetrated? Why haven't I set his engine on fire? This isn't wrong. He's shooting me. Well, the reason for all that, and the reason it's called the SuperPershing, is some clever bod bolted on a load of spaced armour on the front. Here you can see it. That's the front of the hull, the upper plate, and then it's also got it on the lower plate, which is what surprises most people. It certainly surprised me. It took me ages to work out what I was doing wrong, and it's why this tank is actually successful. And there's also more on the front, even in front of them. The gun mantlet, there's more spaced armour and these butterfly wings on the front side of the turret. And when you're looking at it from the front, all that extra spaced armour, even though it's not, well, it's 88mm on the front of the turret, but on the sides only 38, on the hull it's only 38. All that extra armour actually makes it very tough from the front. It ends up punching above its weight if it can keep the enemy on its front. It's one of those oddball premium tanks. Great front armour, poor speed, poor turning, an okay gun. If you learn to use it right and you're coming up against people who don't know its weak spots, then it's a great tank. If you come up, someone gets to your side and rear, and if they're then someone who knows what they're doing, it's not so great. So without further ado, let's have a look at the numbers, shall we? Now looking at it from the front, let's look at the hull first. Let's look at the lower hull first. Equivalent 260. That's quite a lot for a lower front hull, and that's what surprises people. Certainly surprised me. So shooting it in the lower hull, not that great, especially if you start to get close to it and the angle gets more and more and you're soon into ricochet territory. Looking at the upper hull is much the same, except the armour on the hull is thicker, so you've got even more equivalent. Even if you start to look at it, let's have a look, about perpendicular, 178 equivalent. That's quite a lot, but there is that tiny weak spot of the machine gun port. So if you're up close or you've got a really accurate gun, that's a valid target. Looking at the turret from the front, the mantlet, just forget it. You don't want to shoot it through that. 300. Tier 10s have issues going through that. Now you notice the butterfly wings here, the extra spaced armour, don't cover the whole of the turret. Now there's this tiny bit here on that you get to see the cheeks that isn't covered by the spaced armour. It's not very thick, so equivalent 80. That's a good place to shoot it, but it's very small. And if you start going further back onto the side, you'll see the angle starts cutting in, and you get a huge amount of equivalent armour and ricochets. And the same for below this butterfly wing. If he's foolish enough to sort of show you the quarter turn of his turret, then yeah, anywhere apart from the mantlet, you start laughing. Above the mantlet, there are a few places where it's not that thick. If he's got the turret and the whole front to you, that's probably the best bet. although it's by no means guaranteed penetration around here, because there are slopey bits all over. So you get high equivalent and ricochets, even the Commander's Cupola. It's nice and round, nice and slopey, so you're going to have a hard time getting through this thing from the front. There isn't even a collar really to shoot at. So from the front, machine gun port, tiny bit of the cheeks. The common place to shoot him is sort of around here, because that's where, with a bit of variance on your shot, you've got to stand your best chance of hitting a bit of armour you can penetrate. From the side, totally different story. Looking at the hull, the rear of the hull, 51. Nothing. 76 on the front, that's reasonable, but that's not going to stop much at tier 8. You don't want to be shooting through the tracks to hit the side of the hull though. Apart from shooting off his tracks, especially the drive wheel, will make him stationary for a while. And if he's stationary, he can't turn his front armour to you. So that's a good thing to do, if you can. Knock his tracks out and then whack him in the side. Side of the turret also is pretty thin, apart from the front bit with a gun mantler, and don't shoot him in the butterfly wings, but anywhere else, quite happy. Rear of the tank, the turret's alright, but there's obviously no spaced armour there. But the rear, nice and thin. Artillery view, typical, don't land it on the front, it's all quite thick. Top of the turret though, and the engine deck, nice and thin for your artillery. So there you have it. The weak spots of the T26E4, the Oddball. I think there's a better name than SuperPershing, the Oddball.